Hi, my name's Cordy. This is not a real plant. Alright, so that is a real dog. That's Fenton. So Friday I talk about chords, and if you're not aware, on my channel I have this playlist called Lessons and Licks, and that stuff is basically dedicated to me trying to talk to you about what it is that I do. I do get asked various things, you know, what chords you play and what scales you play, and so that's what I'm trying to do here. I put the lessons up on my Patreon, or the licks for the lessons and the tabs for the lessons and backing tracks. If you want to get that, you could join there. I wouldn't join at the end of the month, join at the start of the month if you're going to wait till the start of a new month, because basically it charges every month. Anyway, so what's going on when I'm doing this looping stuff? The key to this really are these kind of chord clusters, and I don't really know what the real name for them is. But it's something I discovered when I used to record a lot of prog metal when I was sort of in my teens, and these things that kind of stack well on top of each other. So for instance, you'll hear that those don't really clash so much unless you hear that kind of major 7 thing as a clash, but to me I like the sound of that. But I wanted to just do a video talking about these kind of little chord clusters and what they are. So this is the first kind of 2, and I'll break them down and just talk about what they are. So they're not triads and what's not happening. So chords like this, these kind of big chords that have a lot to say harmonically, that's not what this is, and it's not triads. Again, those have quite a lot to say, and when you start to try and loop them up together, if you loop those 2 together, I'll just do an example. They don't necessarily work too well. So what's happening in those chords is that there's kind of too much information. The real key is there's a third of a chord there, or a 7th, and so things like a B7 is a really strong chord that will kind of overpower every other chord if you were to loop them together, unless you play a B7 over the top of it. It doesn't really gel with other chords particularly well. So in that example I would use a sus chord instead, so I would avoid the 3rd. And I find that to be a bit more versatile, especially for this looping stuff. So let's talk about this. So we've got an E, we've got an F sharp, and we've got a D sharp. So that's the 1st degree of the scale, the 2nd, and the 7th if we're talking E major. And what you can do with that arpeggio is find that in different inversions. Is it an arpeggio, is it a chord? Call it what you like. So it's like a E major 7 with the 9 instead of the 3rd. So that would be with the 3rd, and that's to me a bit more of an open sound. So E, F sharp, D sharp. That's what we're looking for around the fretboard. So where's another one? E, F sharp, D sharp, F sharp, D sharp, E. Okay, and then D sharp, E and F sharp. And obviously that becomes quite difficult to play. So these kind of voices that are quite close together, I think has a really cool sound. So played on the guitar as a register, you can play basically any bass note underneath them, and because of the ambiguity of the chord, it can sound like chord 2 or chord 4 or chord 6 or chord 3. So that's what I'm looking for with these chords, ambiguity, where I can imply what I like underneath it. Basically, I'm not getting clashes that sound too different. So like for instance, a lot of that kind of sounds to me quite dissonant and not at all what I'm going for. Okay, so the other kind of voicing or voicings for this, so you can learn those in lots of different ways, and all different keys. The other thing that I think is really useful is this. So we've got an F sharp, an E and a B. Okay, and then F sharp, B, E. Okay, and then what else do we need? We need an F sharp, a B, and an F sharp. Okay, so this is a slightly different group of notes. So we've got the 7th, we've got the root, and the 5th. So a different kind of 3 cluster chord, but. And again, listen to how the bass line kind of works with all of them. So that's another dogs. So that's another kind of cluster that works really nicely. So those are just a couple of examples of these things that are like chord clusters. If you have another name for them, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure where they came from. It's just something that I worked out when I was younger, and it's something that I used a lot to this day, especially these ones. But I thought maybe that might help 1 or 2 people. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm looping, and so I'm going to put out a tab with these clusters on each string set and experiment with using those to create rhythm and like the sparkle part of your loop. The tab, I'll put that kind of on all string sets. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm doing these little loops, and that's the kind of little clusters that I use. I thought I'd maybe do a lesson on it because I thought it's vaguely interesting, hopefully to 1 or 2 people. If you want to like and subscribe, you could. Hopefully you got something useful out of this. If you did, I'm using an HX Stomp right now for this, and you can get those presets in the description if you want. There's also a buy me a coffee link, but only use that if you can really afford to, and if you wanted to, if you got something out of this ramble. And here's a better shot of Nemo, I think, hopefully. So thank you for stopping by. and do let me know in the comments if you've got a name for that stuff. As I say, I think I kind of discovered it independently when I was a kid recording stuff, but it's still something that I find really useful, and it's kind of these ambiguous chord clusters that can be looped around and layered and don't get in the way of each other, and also don't necessarily prevent you from doing whatever chord underneath that you like if it's diatonic. Cheers!